And a very pleasant good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special episode of JMU Sound Off, coming off yesterday's unprecedented, unexpected, call it what you will, JMU victory over UNC 70-50. It sounds like a basketball score, but it was very much a football score down in Chapel Hill, North Carolina yesterday. And we're going to talk about all of that, everything from what happened on the field, what happened off the field and in the stands. A great day for all who have purple in their blood. And we have a very special show tonight with a guest who needs no introduction. In former head coach and Hall of Fame member now, Mickey Matthews, will join the discussion. We're also going to have our Skyline Financial Player of the Game. You're going to want to see that in just a second. And then we're really excited to welcome the OGs of the podcast games, our great friends from the JMU Sports Blog. When we have these types of big monumental wins, it's always great to bring the community together. So we're excited to join them in this discussion, welcoming Todd to the discussion as always. So we want to thank our sponsors, the Montpelier Collective, right off the top of the bat. Want to say thank you to everyone yesterday who made a financial contribution after the game. We saw lots of people posting screenshots of their donation, the $70 amount and more, trying to just show their appreciation and gratitude to the players on the field. And that support that you give to the collective is really critical to helping us maintain and sustain the success that we're seeing with this program. And we need to see more of it as we go throughout the season. There's a great Coach for the Day opportunity available for the homecoming game on October 26th. So if you haven't had a chance to get your raffle tickets, do so now. You can do it at MontpelierCollective.com. Again, that support is greatly appreciated. It will make a big difference in helping this staff continue to take this program where we all want to see it go. I want to thank our friends from Skyline Financial Partners. Where's Woody? We've got some other new Where's Woody gear on right now. You'll see some of the other guys on our show sporting it today. Very, very grateful to Mike Norwood and the team at Where's Woody. Had a chance to see him yesterday in North Carolina and really excited about what he's doing, not only to support our program, but many of the athletes on campus at JMU. He's got some great gear coming out in support of the lacrosse program, JMU softball. So check him out at where'swoody.com. Thank you to our friends from Talent Corps, Your Purple Nation. 3 stores now for Your Purple Nation, as their Virginia Beach store is soon to open in the month of October, but you can get your JMU gear in both Richmond and Northern Virginia right now. And then finally, our friends from Shoker Enterprises. And with that, we're going to bring on the other hosts of JMU Sound Off, Steve Brown, Taylor Atkins, and Michael Evangelista. Guys, we're going to get right to it because we got a big show tonight. I'm going to start with you, Steve. Your first fast thought after what was a great day. Oh, a little Earth, Wind, and Fire jamming in the background. 21st of September. Like it.
Hey, suck it, Carolina. How'd that feel? How'd that feel? And that Karen that's sitting next to us, I hope you're listening, you Karen. We're going to take you out next time we see you. This old bag started bitching about us. But my little thing is adaptability, consistency, and resilience. Unbelievable. Best second quarter I've ever seen in JMU history.
Awesome. Taylor.
We have so much to talk about, so I'm just going to use my little intro to shout out Brandon Stevens, who's watching live for the first time, former Duke Club, former JMU. He's my guy. Brandon Stevens, there you go. Let's get this thing started. Is Michael with us?
Yeah. Michael's with us.
Doesn't look like it.
Oh, did we lose him? All right. Well,
I'm right here.
There you are, Michael.
Can you see me?
Yeah, we see you now.
We can't.
We're here.
Oh, I can see him.
I can see myself. Well, I was gonna say maybe I should stop attending the games and Taylor goes in my stay because we set records on the road specifically. So I was gonna say
we could Michael's 30 at Charlotte, my 70 at Carolina. The both of us will hit 100 next time.
You know what? This is why I like you, Taylor. Real quick, I want to echo 1988 Eddie Murphy's classic movie Coming to America. We're back. What a phenomenal weekend. Offense, defense, special teams all around. Let's go. A+, full team effort and a 70 banger against UNC. I'll take that any day.
And my quick headline is enjoy it. And I say that to not only the players on the team, the coaching staff, everybody who's a fan of this program, a former player, a former coach, a former support staff member. It's because of your contributions in the past that allowed victories like yesterday to happen. And it's in the world of sports, it's very quickly for all of us to turn the page to what comes next. But as we said after the UVA game last year, there are certain moments in a season that it is absolutely okay, especially as fans, to pause and really cherish what happened, cherish all the coverage, watch the clips that are out there on social media, because these types of moments are special, and what makes being a fan so different and so unique. And I just hope everyone does take a little extra moment to pause in this, wear some JMU gear when you go to work tomorrow, send your kids maybe in a purple shirt and just enjoy it. But with that, we're going to get to our first segment of the night, and it's a very special edition of the Skyline Financial Player of the Week.
All right, so we're the Skyline Financial Player of the Week. We're going to bring on Tim and Austin from Skyline Financial Partners. Gentlemen, tell the JMU Nation where you are.
We are in Madrid, Spain for a work conference, but you score 70 points and you're going to get us awake at 2 a.m. So it's pretty much that simple.
This is now an international broadcast. Well, we got a lot to cover, a lot to talk about tonight, so I'm going to kick it to you guys to introduce this week's Player of the Game.
All right. Well, I think so. First off, we could have needed 10 belts this week. That was a historic game. But the person that we picked was Alonzo Barnett. The reason why is because he had 7 touchdowns, which is a school record. He was 22 for 34 for 388 yards with 5 touchdowns through the air. He had no picks, by the way. So that's a nice thing too. 13 carries for 99 yards and 2 more rushing touchdowns. And 487 total yards is the most ever by a JMU player. So I'd love to introduce him. This is the second time winning the award, so this time he's able to join us. So if we can have him join, we can. Good to see you.
Thank you guys for having me on. Honored.
Yeah, congratulations, man. That is, you are in JMU. Your whole team, the whole team yesterday should go down.
All 3 facets of the ball, of the game. We got our jobs done, and when that happens, special things happen, and that's what happened last night.
Also, for the UNC coach, if he's paying attention, that was the worst loss to anybody, G5 or FBS, that UNC's ever had. So anyways, if we're going to talk numbers and facts, we can talk numbers and facts. But anyways, when we're looking at it, I want to stay on the positive because I'm really happy for you. I think it's, everything that's been going on for you, to see you sitting where you are right now. It makes me happy. And I know it makes Austin happy too.
Congrats, Alon.
But we have 2 questions for you because I want to see the regular Sound Off guys ask you questions too. So we're going to just keep it to 2 if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So first, when you look at the list of great QBs that have played at JMU, who have actually, played here, and we've got a long list of good quarterbacks, right? How does it feel to know that you have the most touchdowns ever in a game? And how does it feel that it was specifically against a team, UNC, that's in the town, the city that you're, or the country, or the state that you're from?
I mean, it's honestly a surreal feeling. And, when you think about those long lists of quarterbacks and the history that we have just at this position, I think what I try to do is take a piece of each of their game and learn from it. And actually, Cole Johnson, Toddy, and Jordan, Vad are all guys that I, have talked to and taken advice from. So I think when you see my success out there on the field, it's not just, myself, me doing it by myself. They've contributed to that as well, along with my teammates and coaches. So I'm just carrying along a tradition.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. I think a rising tide rises all ships. So I'm happy for Jordan too, and I'm glad that he's still giving you feedback and you guys are talking. I think that's really good for both of your successes this year. And then Austin, who, for anybody who does not know, he is a former player as well. He's actually on here the same night as his former coach, Mickey Matthews. But he wanted to ask you the second question.
Well, Alonzo, not the first time we've beaten an ACC opponent, that's for sure. And it won't be the last. But obviously being in a historic game with what this past Saturday was, if you were able to give any other 2 other players co-offensive player of the weeks, who might come to mind for you?
Or defensive.
Or defensive.
Man, like you said, you could have given out 10 belts. So I think, having to choose just 2 guys, I couldn't do that.
We'll give you 3 if you want. If you want 3,
I'll take 3. I'll take the alibi. So we're gonna go Terrence Spence. I mean, special teams and defense. Tyler Purdy, walk on, getting the job done, earning a scholarship after the game. And then Amari and Dollison. I think I saw something where it's like every time he's touched the ball, it's been either a first down or a touchdown. So stuff like that, it makes my job easy. And we're going to go honorable mention for the guys on the O-line.
It's true. They kept you safe.
Very honorable mention.
0 picks helps that for sure. 7 touchdowns also is nice. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Love the answers for sure.
Well, Tim and Austin, I want to thank you guys for staying up late. International, Madrid, Spain, correct? Is that where you all are?
Yeah,
Yes.
my wife's been asleep for an hour and a half, and his girlfriend's been asleep for an hour. So we're still awake though. We wouldn't have missed this.
Well, I thank you guys for joining us. Alonzo, stick around just a little bit. We have a few other questions from the other Sound Off guys. But before I send Tim and Austin away, just want to remind everyone, SkylineFinancialPartners.com. Go there, check them out. There's just a lot that goes into whether it be financial planning, financial education. There's just so many services that go. I mean, Tim and Austin, talk a little bit about, just real quick, 30 seconds. What are all the areas that people should be reaching out to Skyline Financial Partners?
I mean, I think the first thing to understand is that the financial planning is confusing, right? It's something that's kind of put in an ivory tower. So what we do is we try to take things that are confusing and make it easier to understand. So we start with your goals, right? That's why we love JMU. We both went here. We want to make sure that we're matching your goals. So we do financial planning, and then we also do investment planning, and we make sure that we match everything that goes with your needs. And what we do is we have an attorney and an accountant as well. So our goal is to cover the professional triad, which is financial advising and goals-based planning, accounting work like filing your tax return, and then legal work. Because if you don't have your will, medical directives, and things like that, it's really boring and has nothing to do with football. But it's important, right? It's important.
Awesome. Well, thank you. If you're checking them out, it's JMU guys. We're JMU folks. Check them out. Go to the website, and you're familiar with the name. Just really encourage you guys to go check them out. So thank you, Tim and Austin. And Alonzo, I'm going to bring the other guys back on, and I do want to kind of piggyback off of what Austin was talking about and ask the first question. Really, a lot has been talked about about QB play through the beginning of the season. I want you to go into QB play is not the quarterback. I mean, it goes down from the snap of the ball, the offensive line, the protection they're getting, the routes of the receivers, the communication from the sideline. Kind of just walk through 70 points in the offensive production that happened yesterday. Walk through just everything that you saw from the offensive line to the communication from the coaches on the field, the receivers out there. Tajee Hudson was back. I'm sure that was a big. Yeah. Just walk through what when it comes down to QB play, all the pieces that go into that and what was so successful about yesterday in North Carolina.
I think when you have that many moving pieces, obviously you guys have to be in sync and you have to have some sort of connection. That's not only on the field, but off the field as well. You have to know how each other feeling emotionally. What am I seeing? What is he seeing? Where does he want that ball? The center, what protections is he comfortable with, and things of that nature. So, a big help to that was Coach Kennedy was on the sideline for the Chapel Hill game, whereas before, he was in the press box. So he was able to get an energy and a feel of the game, the crowd, the atmosphere, and to be able to look us in our eyes and have that personal communication. So I think when you have all that, it leads to 70 points pretty quick, and those guys make my job easy. So whenever I have the ball in my hands every single play, so the way I see it is, just what can I do to help this team win, whether it's carrying out a fake, making sure that GP gets a nice accurate ball on the goal line, Ymir, all those guys, because like I said and will continue to say, when those guys get the ball in their hands, they're special and they're going to make plays.
Well, you set the tone with that first play. And, man, when you got up, I knew it was going to be a good day. Steve, I'll kick it to you.
Yeah, did you know, Alonzo, on the first play with the seal that they got on the edge, they dominated that line on that first play. Did you have that feel when you took off around the edge?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And with I don't know if I want to say that. But, yeah, based off of, film, I knew that defensive end would crash pretty hard. And the way we had our block set up, the edge was where I was supposed to hit. So once I had that sealed, I tried as hard as I could to get as many yards as I could and protect the ball.
So what did you guys talk about at halftime, without not the trade secret part, but when you're up 53-21, I can't imagine you've not had a halftime like that. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty to talk about, but just in generalities, usually you go in at halftime and you're like, okay, we got to fix this. We got to fix that. I know there's stuff to fix, but what did you all talk about? If you can talk about that, if you can't, I'll ask you a question.
No. Well, to give you some insight into Coach Chesney's thought process and what he reiterates to the team, he calls the halftime score the most meaningless stat in college football. So, going into the half, we knew UNC, based off of film and the past couple games, that they were a really stout second half team. And I think especially with the North Carolina Central game, you saw that where they came out and completely shut down the Central offense. They limited Charlotte on offense. So we just had to continue to stay focused. And, when you have your foot on somebody's neck, you don't let up. And that was really what was reiterated.
Alonzo, phenomenal work yet again. Congratulations on 7 touchdowns. I was joking around with my friends. This looks like 2015 Vadley versus SMU. I know you mentioned him earlier. Really phenomenal work. Coach Chesney, he's a man of quotes. And one of the quotes that really stuck out for me is he always calls success is the result of well-managed failure.
Yeah.
Walk us through the last 2 weeks. He talked about self-scouting, looking within, looking at our strengths and weaknesses, and maximizing our personnel and our time together. Walk us through like the last 2 weeks through the bye week. Like, what did that look like for you on the offensive side, and how did it affect the team overall?
Well, internally, we have the utmost confidence in each other. That's not only player to player, but that's player to staff, player to coaches and all that. So we knew that the first 2 weeks, that wasn't our identity on offense. We weren't playing the brand of football that we've shown, in camp. And, as we continue to build throughout the season, we knew that our identity was going to be continually, recreated and, lifted up. But unfortunately, you don't have that time to, try to figure out who you are. And that bye couldn't have came at a perfect time. We really dissected the Gardner-Webb game, not only that game, but the Charlotte game, and had an extra week to scout for Carolina. So we really emphasized doing what we do best and doing it together and as disciplined and as hard as possible.
And Alonzo, I wanted to come on to last question before we send you off. You've experienced the lows of this position, and obviously the ultimate highs that being a quarterback at a Division I school can bring. I wanted to ask you, just to have your head coach so publicly yesterday in some of his post-game comments, just show his support, show his belief in you, not only as a quarterback, but as a person. I think it just really speaks to the character of Coach Chesney, but also speaks to the relationship that you two have developed in such a short period of time. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that, because it was really great to see from a fan perspective.
No, for sure. I mean, Coach Chesney is a special coach. Coming in here day one, he emphasized that 60+ transfers, the first thing we have to do is make sure that we know each other, that we develop that personal connection, that trust, that confidence within each other. And, I can't fail when I have somebody like that in my corner. And, somebody that's going to have my back through the highs, through the lows, continually pushing me to be better, not only on the field, but off the field as well. Leadership, within the community, in the classroom. And it's all the little things that he emphasizes and that he stresses that add up to the big things that you see on Saturday. So it's just amazing to have that in my corner.
Well, Alonzo, we're going to let you get back to your Sunday, because we know there's a lot that's on your plate now, especially as the quarterback of this team. But we just want to end by saying thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you to your teammates, the coaches, everyone who plays a role, the training staff, the support staff. It takes a village to make this possible on Saturdays. And I know when you receive an award like Player of the Week, it's an acknowledgement of your individual performance. But what I heard you say in your post-game comments and more today is it is so many pieces had to come together for you to have the success that you did yesterday. But we know it takes a lot. There's a lot of sacrifice and a lot of things you give up to play this position, and you give us all something to talk about, and we just want to always lead with we're very grateful for what you've done and sticking with this after some of the challenges of last year. It's great to see you having the success this season, and we're all wishing you all the best, great health as we go throughout the rest of the season, and just know you have a show full of people and a community behind you, and we're wishing you all the best the rest of the way.
I appreciate you guys. And like Coach Chesney always says, we're putting a man on the moon on this team. So, really grateful for them, coaching staff, like you said, medical personnel, EQ, my teammates, anybody on scout team that, will make us better. So thankful for that. Go Dukes.
All right. Thanks, Alonzo. Good luck the rest of the week. And with that, hey, what a special young man who, as we talked about all last season and as we went throughout the spring, amazing to see him stick with it, the resiliency shown in his young career. And it's a testament to his upbringing, the community that he has around him. And it was just awesome to see a smile on his face as he started the season at Charlotte, and then an even bigger smile on his face as he went throughout the game yesterday. So guys, we're going to get to our next segment, a man who needs no introduction. And this is really exciting for us here at JMU Sound Off, because when we over the last couple of weeks, we really been in conversations with this individual about giving him a platform to be more engaged in giving his analysis and his understanding of the game of football to this broadcast and what he sees week in and week out watching JMU football games. And he is a recent inductee now of the JMU Hall of Fame. So head coach Mickey Matthews, thanks for taking time to join us on JMU Sound Off. Coach, you were watching the game yesterday, like all of us as a fan, which I'm still is taking some getting used to for you. Many years of doing it on the sidelines. And your perspective on this is interesting because you have such a long-standing relationship with both Mac Brown and you've spoke publicly about your relationship now with Coach Chesney and how impressed you are with what you've seen. So my first question, just first of all, tell us where you watched the game yesterday and maybe your initial thoughts, and then we'll let everybody go around the horn and ask you a few questions.
No, I was right here to my house. In fact, I was upset. I don't know if y'all talked about this. They actually cut the game off with 6 minutes left in the game. I mean, I went, duh. And all of a sudden I was watching Virginia Tech run out on the field, whoever they were playing. It was upsetting. But you don't want to be around me when I watch James Madison football game. I get a little vocal. So I sit right here in Myrtle Beach and watch the game.
Awesome. And I'll throw it out to the rest of the guys. The floor is yours. Maybe Steve, you've known Mickey the longest out of this group. Your initial question for Mick.
Coach, it's good to see you. I'm glad we've got you on tonight. Let me ask you kind of what improvements did you see from the Charlotte and Gardner? You were at Charlotte game, the Gardner-Webb game. What did you see yesterday that you didn't see in those two games?
I thought it was obvious that, when you have an open date, coaches handle it differently. And sometimes it depends. A good coach knows when to get things done during the open date. We're not going to, and then when it's late in the year, you're trying to heal some guys up and it's hard to, when you only got 4 games left, it's kind of asinine to think we're going to get better. We're not going to get better when it's late. But when an open date comes early and you're booed off the field at the Gardner-Webb game by all 30,000 people, it's obvious that Bob and his staff convinced our youngsters that we were fortunate to win the Gardner-Webb game. Didn't play very well, and we need to use this open date as a get better week. And it's obvious they did. You could tell their offensive line play lots better. I thought everything, when you block a kick, excuse me, and play it. The biggest thing I thought in the game, you didn't ask me this, but I really thought our kids played really hard. We did some stupid things from time to time, which you're going to do that. But I really thought that our kid, Bob, had the guys really playing hard. And when they would make some plays, with North Carolina's got great players that don't get alarmed. They're going to make plays, and so are we. But I thought we really played hard. There's no doubt.
Were you surprised how well we dominated them in the trenches, both the offensive line, defensive line? I thought dominated them from the opening possession.
Well, no, we didn't dominate them on our defensive front. Until we did, the thing I was most impressed with our defensive scheme was how Bob and his staff mixed up their blitzes. We had them coming from everywhere. I mean, it was hard for me to keep up. I've been known to, I watch that really close and run it back during the commercials. And, we only, I don't remember they punted twice. We blocked one. I don't remember the other punt. The game pretty much was when we were on defense, either they went and scored or they turned it over. I think they had 5 turnovers and 1 block punt in the first half. So our defense front was better, but they had great skill people. Our kids hung in there. The pressure caused a lot of those turnovers. When a quarterback's getting hit that much, that's going to cause interceptions. And Bob and the guys had they brought 4, they brought 3, they brought 6, they brought 5. They really, played some man. I thought that us being multiple defensively in the game is what caused all those interceptions. Didn't just happen. Now the guy's really inexperienced, and I couldn't, to be honest with you, North Carolina, what they were trying to do with some of their passing scheme from time to time, but I really thought that offensively we were better up front. Much improved. Defensively, they moved the ball. They had 620 yards against us. Yards were not a problem for them. Like I said, I don't remember I read on the I don't. When did they punt? I can't remember them punting in the game.
They put in the first quarter. That's when we got the block punt for a touchdown.
Okay, when was the second? I don't remember.
It was sometime in the third or fourth quarter.
Okay,
yeah, exactly.
But I thought our kids played. Our defensive front played. Don't get me wrong, but still, they moved the ball at will against us. When you watch the game, they moved the ball very well against us. They just turned the dadgum thing over, and that was the game was North Carolina's turnovers. I mean, when you have 6 turnovers like that, that's you can't beat a good junior high team. You're just not.
Coach, let's expand on that a little bit, because I think the tail of the game too was we forced them to chuck the ball down the field, and it was our athletes versus their athletes. And I think you said it best, right? Their top 50 players are probably better than our top 50 players when it comes down to it. But when you look at the defensive scheme, it was interesting to watch. I felt like our pre-snap alignment was different from our post-snap alignment in terms of where blitzes were coming from. We had delayed blitzes from safeties, from linebackers, all over the field. As a coach, how do you coach the timing of that? Because it was phenomenal. Like, you had guys coming in from areas right as the offense snapped the ball. Like, how do you coach that, and how does that designed, over practice?
You really offensively, you have to have what we call a hard count. And you see, I don't remember if North Carolina had their quarterback, was he clapping or picking up his leg or whatever. It was obvious that our guys knew when you're exactly right on cue to hit our blitzes in a dead run. And we had unblocked players. Their protection did not hold up. And a lot of times, when you're watching it, we'd be faking a blitz up the middle. And then when the ball would be snapped, those guys would drop out, and you'd bring edge pressure, what we call edge pressure. And that really gave North Carolina a hard time. But it was terrific. I don't know. They were timed up, and evidently North Carolina doesn't have what we call a hard count, where you get guys to jump, because we had it timed up the whole entire game. Our guys, it was like the Indianapolis 500 when we snapped the ball.
We had that strip sack, I think, in the fourth quarter. We actually dropped our 2 defensive tackles back in coverage, which forced the quarterback to hold on to the ball a second longer. So it was really interesting. He obviously hasn't played a lot, but you could tell that he was not comfortable back there. Last question for you. You've played in these big games before. I think it all starts up front. Their linemen are typically much larger than ours. How do you coach a defensive front that was definitely shorter in stature, but we felt like we had the quickness advantage against their O-line? They had monsters at offensive tackle, but we were able to get around them and past them. What are you coaching? What are you telling the defensive linemen when they're facing that type of athlete?
Well, they have much larger players than us, offensive line versus defensive line. I would say this. I think the unusual thing that we are doing at James Madison now is, you always rotate defensive linemen during a game, because that's the most taxing thing you do in a football game, is to rush the passer. I mean, your defensive linemen, you must rotate those guys during the game. You've got to have more than just 4 or 5. You're going to play. I think Sam told me against Charlotte he was going to play 9 guys, and that's pretty standard. The thing that we're doing different at JMU this year is we're rotating offensive linemen, and I'm sure it's because the kids are very equal, and they're rotating them at different times. I've never seen that before. That doesn't mean it's good, bad, or ugly, but we're having success with it. And those kids are getting experienced. And also, if you have an injury, you're going to be money ahead when somebody goes down if a kid's played a bunch. And all the kids, they're going to get prepared if they know they're going to play on Saturday. But it was I just thought we had a great defensive plan for them, for just to mix it up and get some pressure on the guy. Because, when he had time, they completed passes. I mean, you really watch it. That they had nearly 400 yards of passing, I think, right at it. Maybe more than that. I glanced at it this morning. But turnovers is the deal. I mean, you cannot turn the ball over. You cannot. Every time you turn the ball over, you just lost 50 yards you would have made if we punted the ball. So you start adding that up. you can take 300 yards off their total offense is how many total yards they had.
Well, Coach, I have two questions for you. One is mine, but the first one is my buddy Jeff just texted me and wanted me to ask this question for you.
Okay.
The Coach Matthews visor throw is a move that we have seen many a times, and he wanted to know, was there a play yesterday that would have gotten a Coach Matthews visor throw that you can think of?
Oh, Lord, probably the block punt. We'll probably be mad at our guys that were protecting because, that was the only time really they made a run at us, was when they blocked that punt. I think the guy within a little over 2 scores. I thought the officiating was okay. I didn't really – no, I'm lying. One time they made a call against us. He's correct. You tell Jeff, and I can't remember which was, and I was sitting there going, well, here we go. We got the ACC refs. We're not supposed to win. And, I got a lot of PO with that. I forget what situation it was. I thought it was a terrible call. And I told Jeff,
when our defensive lineman hit their quarterback who was trying to run.
Probably was. Yeah, I think
they called a personal foul.
Yeah, the roughing the passer, yeah. Was that with the one you're talking about?
Yep. It was number 15.
It was. You're exactly right. And I thought it was a terrible call, and that's when I thought, those games are always hard. I used to say this even when we were, 1AA, that you go play Maryland, you go play NC State, you go play Virginia Tech. You got to go to their stadium, use their refs, and all the refs know with a quarter and a half left in the game, they're supposed to win. And I was in the SEC at Georgia when we'd have those people come in to visit Athens, and I knew, I was the liaison to the officials for the staff, and I knew every ref out there, and I know how it works, and it's just really difficult in a tight ball game to pull that off. And at that point, I was really concerned that I said, here we go. But I would dadgum sure thrown my visor with that call. Exactly right.
That's fair. Well, my question is, I'm going to get a little nostalgic because I'm thinking back to 2 weeks ago with the Hall of Fame induction and, kind of when you came to JMU. I mean, there was a chain link fence around the field. The scoreboard had light bulbs in it. There was a track around
there. No, you're right.
And it was a conversation you, John, and I had at Coastal Carolina last year, but it's a conversation I've had with you on multiple occasions. And just that when you came to JMU, you saw a program that had the potential and the opportunity to really become what it's become today. And I think back to, when you got to JMU and fast forward to today, we have about 8,000 student tickets being sold out in under 10 minutes for Gardner Webb and Ball State. We're going into an ACC opponent like UNC. We're putting up 70 points. Every college football media outlet yesterday was tweeting and posting about JMU. This was kind of the football program that you said you believed we could be when you got here, but there weren't a lot of people that shared that belief. And I just kind of wanted to get you kind of reflecting on really the last 3 years. We're 22-5 at FBS, what happened yesterday, and just how you feel about being kind of where you were when you got here and where it is today.
Yeah, I tell you, I've never told this story, but when people ask me that, I remember they used to, when the freshmen came in at JMU for orientation, they had to come to some meeting in the stadium. And they would ask myself and maybe a ladies coach sport, and I think 3 of us would talk like for 3 or 4 minutes. And I don't think they do that anymore. But that was, and the first year I did it, I spoke to them. And I spoke to the freshmen. I said, welcome here. And I went through the whole deal. And I said, look, you're going to love James Madison, which and of course, they'd been there 48 hours. I said, it's a great school. You're going to get a great education, blah, blah, blah. And I said, one thing you need to do, you need to throw away your Delaware sweatshirts, your Pittsburgh sweatshirts, your Penn State, North Carolina, and start wearing James Madison. And they booed me off the deal. The student body did. How about that? And about 2 years later, Delvin Joyce came back after he'd graduated, and he and I went over to have lunch at the cafeteria. And we were sitting in there, and Delvin, Delvin's a very bright young man. And he said, "Coach, you won't believe this." He said, "But I can't believe how many kids are wearing James Madison sweatshirts now." That's way before. This is like 2002. He said, "I can't." He said, When I was a student here, the kids did not wear James Madison sweatshirts and T-shirts, and which I think is interesting. So it's very heartwarming to see where we've come. I'm sure they didn't really on TV. They didn't show how many people we had there. I'm sure we had a great following. I think it's going to be a great year for us. Bob's done a terrific job of getting everything going here these first 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll see. But it's great. I mean, it was a sleeping giant, and I think the sky's the limit for us in the future. We're going to get nothing but better. We're going to get nothing but better, and really excited to watch.
Hey, Mickey, I wanted to ask you because Alonzo Barnett was our player of the week, was on before you, and you got a chance to talk to him in the green room before. His, like many young quarterbacks, his journey has not been a straight line. He's had kind of some curves in the road, and that's the things that you build upon. Just kind of talk about your approach to developing a young quarterback and what you're seeing in Bob's approach that obviously he is a coach that believes in building these kids up and really standing behind them both privately and publicly. I'm just curious how you've seen his journey and how you approached the development of the position.
Well, I think this about the first thing that the elephant in the room when you ask that is that the kid we brought in from Washington, we're not playing right now, and I don't know if he's hurt. I don't want to go there. I don't ask Bob, and I think and I tell everyone the same thing. I'm sure everyone always thinks that I've got inside connection with Bob, and when I go up, and our daughter still lives up there. When I'm out playing golf or when I'm at Martin, people, what about the quarterback? And I think you really have to give a lot of credit. I tell everyone the same thing, and it's the truth. They're going to play the best player as they see it that gives them the best chance to win. And they're there every day at practice. Bob sees every drill. He and the OC, they see every drill, every pass each kid throws, and they see everything going on in the locker room. They're going to play the best player. Along with that, what you asked, they've shown a lot of patience with this youngster. I think he got better yesterday. His still – when he runs with the ball, he's a great threat. He throws a great deep ball. He has very good touch. He really struggles throwing the short ones. I used to tell Rodney Landers because he reminds me a lot of Rodney. Rodney, when you throw those short ones, you got to throw a change up. You can't throw your fastball. It's a little quick. But I think they've shown great patience with the kid. And, you don't play that well if the kids don't really like the quarterback like we played yesterday. It was obvious the kids around him like him. And but that's as an outsider's observation. I don't know anything inside. Bob and I have not discussed it, and that's not my job to do that. But I think the kid played better. I thought as the game went along, we completed more short. If you remember the game started, that was an option we ran to start the game. We made 30 yards with a lead blocker. And then the first two passes he threw weren't very good. He threw one in the dirt, and the next one was a low one. But as the game went along, he threw those passes a lot better, the short ones. I thought he really improved, and I'm sure he'll get nothing but better. They'll coach him. They know that. They're going to continue to do that with the youngster.
And then, Mickey, final question for you. You had a chance to see some of your former players at the Hall of Fame induction. And the last time you saw some of them, they were kids. Now a lot of them have kids. They're much older men, but it had to be a special moment for you. Just talk about your weekend and how great it was to see some of those familiar faces and to have it happen in the context of being inducted into a Hall of Fame.
Well, they'll always be kids to me. I tell them that all the time, that when I see them, I guess they're in their 40s now, but they're still children to me. So then that's just because I love them so much. I love them more than life. And I always used to tell everyone that we had a big advantage every Saturday when we played the games, because I knew that my players loved me more than they loved the other team loved their coach, and I loved my guys more. We always had a big advantage every Saturday because our bond was so strong. But those guys, see how well they've done in life, how close they still are, warmed my soul. And it was, God blessed me to be the head coach of James Madison. He really blessed me to be able to coach such a wonderful group of young men like those guys were.
Well, Mickey, we'll let you get back to your Sunday. I have to ask you, how many times you playing golf this week coming up?
4.
There you go. That's what I like to hear.
No, I'm playing. I got. They kind of took me last week, so I got my game face on right now when I get up tomorrow. I'll be ready to go tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, Coach, we'll see you next week, and we just want to say this is an absolute honor for so many of us. It's a little surreal to share a platform with you, and to be able to do it now on a regular basis is going to be a lot of fun. So first of all, congrats on you. Tell us you're not a tech guy, and you were able to get on this with your phone. So you're more of a tech guy than some of us are, even. So congratulations for getting on. Thanks for doing this, and to have your voice in the JMU universe again is a really, really great thing. You haven't lost your fastball in terms of the quotes. So keep them
I
coming.
tell you what, I'm looking forward to doing this every week. I love watching them. I mean, like I say, you don't want to be in the same house with me when the Dukes are playing. I feel like I'm I'm probably getting to get my visor on, throw it in here, throw it at the dog. But
that we'll add that to the segment for weeks to come. So we'll get you a visor. Thanks again, Mickey. Man.
Thanks. Oh man, we're gonna call this segment.
That was cool. That was a lot of fun.
This might be the visor toss, the visor throw, whatever you want to call it. But I think that's gonna be our new segment, Nate.
We should do it.
I don't have a visor, but I threw the hat.
Well, that's got to be a question every week. What was the visor toss?
It's
moment?
visor toss of the week. We're coming up with new segments on the fly.
Thank you, Jeff, for that suggestion. Yeah,
awesome. And with that, we still got a show. We can't just geek out on our own guests, but that was cool. We're going to bring on another man who needs no introduction. We call him the OG of the podcast game because he is. But second of all, before I bring him on, because I want to say this publicly, the one thing I have appreciated about JMU Sports Blog, in addition to the great work that they do each and every week, just being a calming voice in the community, is the ability to do this show every single week for as long as they have. We said it last year when we had him on after the UVA game. This is not easy. Putting content together every week. It's not easy coming up with show ideas and everything that goes. And we all have different opinions and schedules and kids. But Rob and Todd had done it, and they've done it with class from day one. And that's why when we had this opportunity to celebrate another win over an ACC program, we saw Todd in the stands. I was like, we got to get him on. So with that, Todd, thanks for hanging out in the green room. I could see you in the minimized window below that you were enjoying the discussion with Mickey just as much as we were. First of all, Todd, just welcome to the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm ready to throw this visor.
You were the one that thought ahead. You actually put on the visor. So
yeah, I switched before the show. Yeah.
There you go.
But 2 years in a row. Yeah.
Hey, what's in the water, man? I feel like there's been all these rumors and talks and chat threads about us joining the ACC, and it feels like we're already part of it because we've won our last 3 games against it. So we're on a 3-game winning streak or whatever it is against the ACC. So Todd, you were in the stands yesterday, a very hot stadium in North Carolina. I feel like we're still hydrating. That's why I'm drinking a water today as opposed to anything else. Just from your perspective, anything you want to touch on to lead us off? Just what a great day on a campus that is absolutely spectacular, and a program we all know, obviously very familiar with their basketball success, but still a program that came into yesterday's game at 3-0, and in the early going part of the season had really been celebrating their success on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of good things happening in Neyland Stadium, and then yesterday, as we said in our post-game chat, a game that no one predicted.
Yeah, no, none of us thought this was coming. Certainly not me. The special teams, that was just an unbelievable performance. And I think that's for those of us that were really geeking out about like Holy Cross stuff from the last few years. That was one of the things that we were so excited about the possibility of seeing, and to see all that aggression in the play calling early on, and even on that special team side of the ball was huge. But the one big thing I wanted to mention actually is off the field. And I was at the game in 2016, lived in Greensboro for quite a while. And, I've been to a lot of these games. And I saw a lot of the people that I have seen over the years at these games yesterday. A lot of my old friends from JMU, younger, older, all kinds of things. But a lot of these people are people who come to the UNC game, the Duke game, the NC State game when they occur. They didn't come to the Elon games, right? They didn't come to the Charlotte games, not before this year, right? And I was so blown away by how many of them were at the Charlotte game this year and told me yesterday, like, we were at the Charlotte game and now we're here. And they didn't. And when we went in 2016, just in 2016, when I went and saw all those guys, they all live in Holly Springs and Fuquay Varina down there and everything, and when I saw all those guys in 2016, we got together as a social event. Like, I wanted to go to the UNC game, but like Mickey was saying about the sweatshirts, right? It's the same thing. All these guys yesterday, they were there to watch the JMU football game yesterday. This was a different thing for them. These are guys in their 40s and 50s. And it's the Wisconsin basketball game, the Michigan State game, the softball, men's and women's soccer both won their doubleheader this weekend to start Sun Belt play, right? All these years are stacking. And Steve and you guys bring this up all the time. And it just reminded me, and you guys I'm just so grateful. Rob and I keep saying we're so grateful for all the other people doing this now and expanding the world. And we all have to remember to keep, Rob will kill me for saying this, but to hold the door. Metaphorically, it's not physically, right? But we need to open this tent and keep opening it. And it can't be all Steve and you guys and, the AD and the Duke Club guys doing it. It's got to be all of us together. And I was just so blown away. There was a family I sat with yesterday who's old friends of mine from college. And her and her family live in Richmond. And they've been to a lot of these like big games, and I see them at homecoming here and there, right? But they went to Charlotte this year, and they came to UNC yesterday, and they came for the football team, and I'm so blown away. It's such a different thing. Just in the last 12 months, it's a different thing, and we got to just keep it going. And that was I was so shocked by what happened yesterday, but the best part of it all was just it felt like what is to come. Like, it is confirmation of what I think those of us that are so positive and drink all the purple Kool-Aid most of the time, and we all get accused of it, but we also see it and we feel it like there's more to come. There's more to come. And that was what, for me yesterday, just felt like, oh my gosh, there really is. And it might be more to come this season, so yeah.
Todd, I'll kick things off a little bit here. It's so cool to have you on, man. Like, it's so good to see you as well. I'm going to geek out for a second because I think when we talked a couple of years ago, I remember being a student, 2009, in some dorky CIS class. I think it was before the Maryland game. And I was bored, and I was like, let me just look up JMU. And I remember, like, the old sports blog came up on Google, and it was the only thing out there, right? Like, let's be honest, there was no Twitter and all that stuff. And I remember I was like, you guys would launch, like, the pregame, like, every Thursday. And then I would see all the post comments, and this is when blogs were a thing. And it's just, to your point, man, like, it's so phenomenal to see how this thing is like just literally blown up since. But you and I were texting a little bit. And I remember you and Rob's show last week, and you were talking about the tight ends a little bit. And man, I think they heard you guys because Taylor Thompson's caught a TD, Logan Kyle caught a TD, and man, they really showed up on Saturday. And I think, like, overall, I feel like the coaches like simplified the game plan for Barnett, right? When it comes to like some of the option reads, I think we ran. I mean, you're a former receiver, man. I think we ran a lot of high-low concepts where, like, depending on where the defender is, he just throws it low or throws it ahead. We saw that a bunch, and he played with like a moxie we haven't seen in a while. Like that second quarter, and he was just dancing back there and just hitting Cam Ross and some of those like crossers was just a thing of beauty. What are your thoughts there? Because like I know we needed to see a lot of production out of the wide receiver tight end room come this weekend.
Yeah, I think Taylor Thompson had the block on the first play, the one we were talking about, the Barnett.
Yeah, he pulled right around.
Yeah. So that was really exciting. It's great to see. I feel like it's a weapon that it's funny. You see it with like Jaden Daniels in the pros right now. Like young quarterback can rely. The tight end's 10 yards up the seam. Like he's right in the middle, right? Like he's there. If you need it, it's right there. You know. I also thought that a big part of that yesterday in the passing game was the O-line. I mean,
100%.
Barnett had ages to throw on some plays. You know, they took a couple sacks because they got up and he didn't want to make a bad play later on. But he had clean pockets a lot of the day to make some of those deep throws. So
I think they only had three negative. I think they only had 3 negative plays. One was a sack. Yeah. One was like that miscommunication on the run play. And I think they had another sack in the third or fourth quarter, but that was it.
Yeah.
We didn't have too many negative plays on Saturday, if I recall.
No, not too many. And they also used Purdy and Petaway a few times, which is really something we hadn't seen much this year. And you feel like, well, if we got playmakers, let's get them on the field. So that was positive. And yeah, it was just such a fun. In that way, I mean, on the scheme thing, it's just really fun to watch and talk to all you guys about this because it was a great day. I also thought, I mean, one thing we saw yesterday, the Holy Cross crew, right? And I'm impressed with Chesney. We had two guys from Holy Cross sitting in the stands behind us. I assume they're either former players or friends of our current players. They were going just as crazy as the rest of us when they're like purple Holy Cross shirts, right? Like,
I mean, you and I have talked about it. We talked about it last week. Terrence Spence, I think, blocked 6 or 7 punts or field goals at Holy Cross.
Yeah.
He should have had one last week against Gardner Webb.
Almost had one in Charlotte in the back of the end zone too.
Exactly. He should have had that one too.
Yeah. So yeah, him, Purdy, and Dobbs, obviously, you know, and it's just one of those things. We said last week, we kind of made a joke. Some people saw it on Thursday night when we watched two other Sun Belt teams play, one of whom has a new staff and a new scheme. And so they lost to a MAC team early on in the season, in their first week, right? South Al, that's what I'm talking about. And all of a sudden, they look like a whole different team. The switch has flipped, right? They got an FCS game under their belt, a bye week under their belt, and man, do they look better, right? And that's what we saw from us too. And I think you're seeing it around the country, which is you turn over all this stuff. You want to survive the first few weeks before you can figure out what you have. I'm sure you guys are going to go into this more, but man, talk about buy-in, players, fans, all of the JMU world. I mean, that's the most, I think we said in the stands when I saw Steve and John and Taylor after the game yesterday, like, we all just had a big sigh of relief. And it was like, oh, we're back. I'm not going to say we're back. We didn't go anywhere. But, like, all this thing we've been believing in is, like, it's going to be okay. And, oh, my gosh, watching the players on the sidelines, I mean, the fun they were having. You guys are
the sideline warning that we got with Chesney.
Chesney
running down the sidelines.
That was amazing.
The whole sideline was dancing at timeouts. Like, they were having fun. And, you know, last year when I came on here was after the UVA game, which for everybody on this call, not only the manner that the game happened, but the result itself was just so, to be honest, it was emotional, right? I mean, it was 40 years. And it was like, we have to hear about this. We live with these people. We work with these people. You know, that was a different thing. This was like the ECU game. I'm going
to step out of turn for a second, though. That for me yesterday, it felt last year was a wow. We really have arrived at the FBS level because we beat that big brother, however you want to call it. This is the opposite of this because we went into another ACC school who was 3-0. Everything that goes around this program in terms of the an NFL running back, and he did perform well yesterday. Let's give Maryham the credit that was due, and we beat the pants off him. And I feel like that to me, that's just as you said, you know, Todd, the everything school mantra or the national notoriety around this program. Yesterday is the confirmation that it's not a blip because your first season in FBS, you have great success, but it's a transition. You're 8-3. Next year, you build upon it, and now you're 3-0. With 70 points on an ACC team in their house. And to me, the question I keep wanting to answer is, what's the ripple effect of not just beating an ACC program, but beating the pants off them? And that to me is a totally different type of outcome because people aren't going, oh, wow, because we could have lost that game on it, whether the 2-point conversion at UVA is returned for a touchdown or the last play of the game, you know, when a receiver gets behind, score 70 points. And the national attention that generated is a different type of buzz. And I feel like none of us on this program right now really, truly probably can appreciate or understand what the long-term impact of that is.
I was going to say before Taylor and Steve hop on, I mean, we were the #1 trending topic on Twitter. We were all over ESPN, which like Fox had us everywhere. CBS had us everywhere. And you open up Instagram and it was just like JMU, JMU, JMU. And it's like, what, 4th year in a row we're the hot kids in town, right? Like it keeps coming, it keeps happening. So it's really phenomenal.
Well, one of the questions I got today playing golf when I pulled up at the club, and Eric Boland and I played today, and we dressed the same. So we had the white JMU shirt, the white JMU hat, and both, you know, our purple bags that looked like twins or something. One of the guys came out
think we lost Steve.
All right, take the baton, Taylor.
All right. Well, if Steve comes back, I'll pitch it back to him. But the one thing I wanted to say was, I know there's a lot more visibility at the FBS level, so I understand to some degree why the national landscape is just kind of jumping on the JMU bandwagon. But as everyone was talking today, one thing that kind of came to me was beating UNC the way we did in the Chesney era kind of starts to show the college football world outside of FCS that this is a JMU thing. Listen, JMU fans, since the early 2000s, we're used to double-digit win seasons. We're used to sold-out crowds. People talk about the Sam Houston game and the South Dakota State game, the North Dakota State game, and all the App State and the Richmonds. And like JMU folks know it, but on the national landscape. And while I thought the New York Times article was awesome, I'm not criticizing it. The one thing about it was like, here's this low major team in rural Virginia that in the last 2 years has just taken the world by storm. And most JMU fans kind of read that and it's like, I get it. I mean, I'm not mad about it. I get it. 100% outside of the JMU bubble, that is exactly how we're being viewed. But now people are starting to see that this wasn't Curt Cignetti's football program. It wasn't a Curt Cignetti thing, that this is a JMU thing. And through Curt Cignetti, we were successful. And Mike Houston, we were successful. Withers, we were successful. Withers brought us game day. Houston brought us game day. Cignetti brought us game day. Chesney's not going to be far behind that, And one thing about yesterday was people are like, oh, man, I was listening to the Inside Carolina after game podcast. I had a 3-hour drive back to Roanoke today, and my audio of choice was listening to all the UNC Aftermath podcasts, and it was great. But, one thing they were talking about, I think it was Inside Carolina that said, Mac Brown's had 6 years to put this team together, but, Bob Chesney went in there. Cignetti took all their best players, and he was the coach that got them to where they were.
He took all the good players to Indiana. They had nothing left. Yep.
And Bob Chesney put this team together with barbed wire and duct tape, as if Cignetti was the only relevant piece of the JMU football program. And I just want to, for all the JMU people that maybe sometimes either take for granted or just think this is kind of normal. I mean, you saw a sold out crowd yesterday. I understand they left because the score went down, but in the beginning of the game, they didn't know that was the way it was going to go. And you saw the student section, our student sections, all 8,000 plus, and we could get more if there were more tickets. We're selling out games in under 10 minutes for Gardner-Webb, for Ball State. I mean, these are not programs that it's just, there is a culture and an atmosphere and an environment. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, but to piggyback on that, we also transitioned in AD. And to see Matt Roan on the sideline with his family and just the smile that was as wide as the field, what a moment that is for him. And it was the perfect passing of the baton from Jeff Bourne, and I think we may be taking for granted just how seamless that transition was. So there was the success of Roan yesterday. And honestly, one of the things, I don't know if anybody else caught it, that I just really enjoyed yesterday was seeing the tweet from Chesney with his son.
Yes,
after the game, but immediately, almost one of the first people to quote tweeted it was Preston Spradlin.
Yes,
and it just shows that this community and the culture that to bring Mark Byington in is now he's taken this program and is building upon it. And you saw Sean O'Regan excited about it, and it just shows that there is something happening here that probably we all have our ideas and theories and. Should it be happening in this world of new athletics and the funding but it does keep happening. And that to me is something that I'm starting to appreciate more and more, is because all of us are like, when is this bubble going to pop? When is how does this dream end? Like, and the Athletic article, one of the quotes in it was, is this the peak of it? And how does it change? And we keep defying the odds. And this is just the latest example. And I use it as a moment to say, there'll be another transition in the future. Hopefully it's years from now, who knows? But we're going to be okay because we are JMU. And it would have been easy. Some people say, oh, you're going to say that, and how can you back it up? We can say it because we keep backing it up.
Exactly. And
to Taylor's point, I was going to say, to Taylor's point, at halftime, I had a buddy of mine text me, and he goes, now that's a JMU score. Just like out of nowhere, right? It was like 53, whatever it was. He goes, now that's a JMU score that I'm used to. And I was like, and I just thought about that because you mentioned like stacking wins and culture and expectation. I was like, this is a JMU thing. This isn't some sort of like splash in the bucket.
But here's what I got. Here's what I got today when I was at the golf course. The first guy that came to me said, "How did you get Carolina to play in Harrisonburg?" He said, and I said, "We weren't. It was at Carolina."
Right.
And he said, "Well, I was listening on the radio, and all I heard was the JMU chants." And I said, "It's because we had 8,000 to 10,000 people at Keenan Stadium." And he said, "Good God Almighty!"
And you mentioned Chesney and Roan. I said this to Todd while we were standing there. Charlie King was on the sideline with the biggest grin, and he was pumping his fist in the air. And for a man that probably, if you're not a diehard JMU fan, you probably don't. Jeff Bourne gets a lot of credit, as he should, but you probably don't realize how much Charlie King has meant to this program and just the infrastructure that's been built. So I was excited to see him there, and but one thing else as I took for granted is I'm walking around Chapel Hill, and I understand it was a noon game and it was early, but man, there was just not a tailgating culture at all. And I thought, well, maybe I just took the wrong path, or I didn't see the big lots. But this also goes back to that Inside Carolina podcast where they were talking, like, one of the main issues, they were talking about how the admin really doesn't get behind the team and that football is kind of a burden. They were venting, I get it, but they were just saying, they were basically saying, if SEC, they were talking about Ole Miss and the Grove. They said, you go on that campus, and every inch of that campus, people are there celebrating the pregame, bringing the party, and embracing the culture of football. And, we have a school, UNC, which is arguably one of the most visible brands in all of college athletics. And maybe at JMU, if you don't go outside of the JMU bubble, you assume, oh, well, I know how we tailgate at JMU. It must be so much bigger at these bigger schools. Mm-hmm. And you don't realize that was my thing when I went to UTSA and went to all these Big 12 schools, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Arizona. It just hit me that I was like, man, JMU, from a tailgate atmosphere, a pregame, from an in-game atmosphere with our marketing and all the event staff there, and then just our student section that is literally wedged into every crevice and corner. Again, for the last 10 years to see FCS schools, and now doing it for Gardner-Webb and Ball State. I know we're a Homer podcast, and I'm one of the biggest ones, and I don't apologize for it. It's just it's a moment like this where it's important to realize this is not a Signetti thing. This is a JMU thing, and Bob Chesney and that team and that coaching staff have continued a tradition that has been here for decades, and I'm just excited to see where it goes from here.
Can I ask you just how, I don't know, for the guys who were there, and I don't know if it was visible on TV because I heard the Rutgers, they cut out and stuff, but the other thing that struck me yesterday, it was you expect to see the players react the way they did because it's a big win, it's UNC. I was really taken back at how visibly excited the coaches were on this staff. Mm-hmm. And there's one thing I've wanted to talk about since yesterday that I think is just an indication of who Bob Chesney is as a person. And I'm not going to talk about anybody else in this because it doesn't really matter what happened in the past. But Chesney was willing to give Coach Kanan an opportunity to speak at the post-game press conference. And that may seem like an insider media thing, but it just shows that, first of all, he's comfortable in his skin as a coach, but he is proud of his special teams coach and the contribution he makes on a day in and day out basis, and to give him the spotlight. And that is a conscious decision that he makes as a coach. I think really is, we've heard about this, the offensive line coach who comes from the Giants saying, I want to coach the rest of my career with Bob Chesney. And you've heard all of these guys in the staff, and this is why I think you see some of the Holy Cross fans and alumni embracing our program, because they're embracing this family nature and the culture in which we heard it, but you have to see it backed up. That's the type of action yesterday. And then the quote about Alonza that instills that loyalty that I think ripples for years to come, as long as he's here with this program. I just thought it was really nice to see.
Well, they've been together the longest.
Yeah.
So, they have a relationship that goes a long, long way. And, they've always are together in terms of, how special teams is going to work. You heard Alonza say it yesterday. It's the heartbeat of the team. There's not many coaches that you will hear say that special teams is the heartbeat of the team. And it is. So I love that he highlights his folks. He's done that since he's been here. He'll continue to do it. The way that Alonza presented himself tonight is outstanding. He's a redshirt sophomore. I mean, everybody looks at him and says, I don't know how old he is. He's 19 or 20. I don't know his age, but I mean, what a wonderful young man who just has his act together, and he was having fun. When I was on the sidelines last night in the second quarter, I could see his face, and it was as calm as he possibly could be. There was no panic. It was like, we belong here. We expect to be here. And I'll give a shout out also to Dylan Morris. Dylan was working with him the entire game.
You could see that on the TV broadcast too a couple times. So you really saw him in his ear, and there was a genuine back and forth that was really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed with how they all were helping each other the entire time, and it was just an unbelievable second quarter. I wanted to throw that out there to you guys, but I've never been on the sidelines for something like that, and it went quickly. And for you in the stands, it may not have, but down on the field, I looked up and it was halftime, and it was an unbelievable. I mean, Spence took that thing right by me. And then Chesney, I thought it was good. I had to get out of the way because I don't want to get run over. And I had cheerleaders, like the kid cheerleaders getting ready for halftime, were behind me. So I couldn't say half of the shit I usually say. But it was unbelievable to see how excited, like, to your point, how excited the coaches were, the players were. There's a genuine bond. And I know people call me a homer and call us all homers, but now they see it. So all the people out there that are, poo-pooing people and, oh, this isn't true, and let's pull this person, and, the clowns on the message board, the whole thing. I mean, I won't go into all these people because there's there's a lot of them. I think they got their comeuppance yesterday. I think they now realize there's something special here at JMU, and it's not the culture here is really damn good. So I'll throw that out to you.
Steve, Coach Chesney said it best. Those people are not allowed on the bandwagon, right? They can keep talking. They can stay exactly where they are. Chesney goes, they are not allowed on board. We're going to keep the train going.
Yeah, I would love to know how that message was received in the locker room too, because that's the type of thing that players that have to have a feeling. Let's be honest, in the era of social media, these guys are all on their phone. They see this stuff, and to have a coach so willing to go out there and be brazen about it and not just use it as a throwaway line. It just, all coaches have their different motivation styles and what buttons to push. You have to think that that's something that's going to be well received. I did want to ask you guys real quick, and if you want to touch on the bigger picture, I'm fine. Anyone want to touch on any other players that stood out yesterday to them? I thought one position group I was really intrigued to see was the receivers, and we got a chance to see Tajee Hudson for the first time yesterday. Amari and Donaldson continues to take the top off defenses. Getting a chance to see our new freshman wide receiver make some really nice plays yesterday. Just throwing it out there, what groups stood out to you? We've talked a little bit about the offensive line, obviously. Eric O'Neill having a big day on the defensive line was another standout for me. But just throw that out to the group, anyone who wants to take it.
If you guys don't mind, I'll jump in.
Take it, Todd.
Yeah. One guy yesterday for me was Trent Hendrick.
He had the punch down on the fumble.
And just like him and Dobbs had kind of an impossible, their mission yesterday was pretty difficult. I mean, not to talk about North Carolina, but obviously, like, for all their problems, Omari and Hampton is not their problem. No. Like, the running back is the best running back we're going to see in the next decade, right? Like, and I don't know. Hendrick has fought through a lot, and I think he's a guy who felt to me like he kind of got left back or something last year by the last group. I don't know. He never I felt like it was almost there. And then yesterday, he also made one play, a hustle play. I don't even remember what it was, like a long run to tackle the guy down like the 5-yard line, like from nowhere, where I thought the quarterback was going to score coming around the corner, kind of, or whoever it was. And he was a guy that I really, really was impressed with. And then the other guy that kind of jumped out at me a little bit yesterday was Summerall. He's the Syracuse transfer, I think, right? I may have that wrong, but right, was it Summerall?
Summerall came from Florida. Are you talking about Lockett?
I don't know. 9. Who's 9? Man.
Yeah, Summerall. Right? Lloyd.
Summerall. Yeah, Summerall. I mean, and it's kind of what Mickey said. Like, you're rotating the D line, and you're starting to get some guys in there. And it just felt like it can't be all O'Neal, right? It has to be more guys involved. And I thought Bush was really solid. I mean, it goes without saying, but he's doing all the dirty work. And we were kind of talking to stands. They kept putting the D tackles back in on third down sometimes. And people were like, well, what are we doing? Like, they're not really the rushers. And I'm like, yeah, but they're getting pressure in the face. They're just backing up the line into the quarterback's face. And neither of the quarterbacks, I think they played both those guys at some point yesterday, and they were both terrible because they couldn't see anything. up the middle, and they didn't really have anywhere to go. They couldn't step up in the pocket.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me was when I went on that UNC podcast last week and they were saying, what are the two things that are kind of your concerns? And I said, one, obviously we need the offensive production. We couldn't see Gardner Webb again. That was number one. But number two was, I said our defensive line, both at Charlotte and Gardner Webb, and it wasn't just the defensive line, just the defensive front seven. It's just they weren't getting the pressure on the quarterback, and especially at Gardner Webb, just dinking over in the middle all the time. That UNC game, it was almost impressive where I was expecting at some point to not see the guys in the backfield, but the blitzes were timed so well. I forgot who it was, but that one where the corner came off of that one, I'm probably describing 10 plays yesterday. But
Sheeran probably.
Yeah.
It was probably JT or Sheeran. They were coming from all different angles.
So it was the blitz packages and the timing of the blitz, but then also even when we weren't blitzing, to Todd's point, I mean, our line was just pushing those guys back in his face, and that was the biggest difference for me that I didn't see the first couple weeks, and just really impressed at how, because a lot of those guys, both in the offense and defense at Carolina, I mean, they're going to be getting pro looks here in a year or two. So that was athletically one of the best teams we will see all year.
The other question I want to throw out to you guys is, and because it's something we haven't talked about yet, but I think it to me is the thing that if I look back at this game, I'm probably going to remember the most, is this coaching staff came in from the first play to the last play with an aggressive game plan that if we have to go for it on fourth, we're going to go for it on fourth. We're going to block punts. We're going to do. What message do you think that sends to your team when your coaching staff says, we're all in? Because let's be honest, there were a couple of those play calls, the fourth down call, that if it goes the wrong way, everyone on Twitter is going to be like, what's Bob doing? But they got it. And that's something they've shown through the first 3 games of the season, is that they are not afraid to make the call that, could eventually come back on them. And that's a mentality. And they were not going to lose that game by leaving anything on the table. And I thought that was pretty special. Just curious, anyone who wants to take your thoughts on that.
This is what Bob has been saying since he was hired. He told us in December, you're going to see us be aggressive. He's told us throughout the spring. He told us throughout the summer. He said, you will see us be aggressive. You will see something different than you have seen at JMU. Now, we didn't see it the first 2 weeks. I don't care about seeing it the first 2 weeks. I don't care about those games. I was looking at Carolina, and I think we all were. And I love what he decided. You heard Alonzo say it. This isn't something we installed during the bye week. This is crap we've been working on since the spring. This is stuff we did all summer long. We decided when we wanted to use it. I love the strategic part. The other part that we cannot miss, they have integrated 60 new people and a ton of staff, 30 new staff people, 90 people have been integrated into a corporation to run like a machine in week 3. That's unfreaking believable. So I want to make sure we all talk about that and leave that on there.
Well, I was going to add too, Coach Shezzy said it best, right? He wanted to start fast on Saturday. And I think maybe 53 points was probably over what he expected. But I think one of the post games, Drew Kanan mentioned, Coach Shezzy, right after the first touchdown, they were going to go for 2. And they saw that the last time a team had a muddle huddle against North Carolina was 2021 South Carolina, when they ran that exact same play. So they're looking tape at 3-4 years ago, and they knew it was going to work. And they said, whatever happens, Coach Shezzy said, however we score, whatever we score, when we score, we're going to run that muddle huddle. And they had confidence in it, right? So going back to Chesney quotes, success breeds confidence. So he trusts the players, and he's going to put them in the best position possible. Going back to your first question, John, I want to do a special shout out. Chesney isn't afraid to put the best players on the field. And whether you're a super senior, COVID senior, or if you're a freshman, I think Tayshawn Dye, who was a former Syracuse recruit, comes in and plays as a true freshman on special teams, number 45. He also, I think he was supposed to be Omar Hampton during the practice as well. He was supposed to emulate him. Tyler Brown made some great plays, another true freshman. Chase Regan, Weathersby, all these young guys came in through the clutch, which was really awesome. But my player I want to shout out, and he was probably on the TV for probably all the wrong reasons as a casual watcher of the game, but DJ Barksdale, number 32. He had the ungodly responsibility of covering Bryson Nesbitt Yeah. A 6'5", 235-pound wide receiver, a super senior, by the way. And as you guys know, Barksdale plays in the slot, and they play Nesbitt all over the field, particularly in the seams. And yes, Nesbitt got some catches on him, but Barksdale's 5'9", 170, sophomore, true sophomore, and was on him. And yes, he made plays because Nesbitt's a great player, but he was on his hip the entire game and never stopped.
Well, he also pushed off on a touchdown.
100%. He pushed him right out of bounds, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. OPI multiple times, but Barksdale was there. And you're talking about a kid, maybe he's 18, maybe he's 19, was put in a stressful situation last year as a true freshman. And the kid battled, man. He reminds me of any Indianapolis Colts fans. He reminds me of like Bob Sanders. He was a safety, 5'8", 185, all-pro player, had no fear. And he just kept going at it, Nesbitt. And Nesbitt caught some balls, but the balls he didn't catch, Barksdale was contesting it, found a way to push him off. There was 2 2-point conversions. They went to him. He stopped them completely. Those are plays that when we go into Sunbelt play, Coach talks about putting people in fire. You can trust a kid like that in key situations when he's played against a guy like Nesbitt and he's made plays right off of him.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'm going to transition just because we could probably talk on this for 2 to 3 hours, and we want to leave Todd something to talk about in his podcast. But we'll kick it around. Todd, I'm going to start with you. Any final thoughts just on the experience yesterday, or anything you're looking forward to, in the weeks to come with this team, because we do have a game next Saturday against Ball State, and then obviously end your final thought with what you got planned for your show this week.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, we'll be recording tomorrow night. We're talking about the game. Very excited. As I think Rob and I can safely say, we were not right. We're not often right about much, but my Greensboro connection has led us to be for a couple of years now the AB3 guys. Like the Apollo, and yesterday was wonderful, right? So we'll certainly be talking about some of that. And the biggest thing we're going to talk about tomorrow is Terry. As you guys know, Rob's cousin is Terrence Spence's mother. Got to meet them after the game yesterday, and what a day. John, my last thought, though, with you guys, thank you for having us. Big time, as always. Appreciate what you guys are doing, everybody. And you guys put out some good stuff, good ideas today from Outfielder Collective. Donations of all sizes. That's really good. Everyone should check that out. But kind of riffing off what you said about the coaches' excitement, John and Steve, both of you guys mentioned this. They're from Holy Cross too. Yeah. This is a coaching staff that some of them have been from D3 to D2, Salve Regina to Worcester to Holy Cross, and they were in Kenan Stadium in an ACC stadium yesterday, whipping the ass out of an ACC team. Right? I mean, they hung 70 on an ACC team yesterday. And this wasn't Wake Forest, right? It's like, no shade to them, but this was a big deal. And so on a big picture, they're excited to have their first, this is something I'm sure they all dream of, the staff, right? Being the guys in that stadium, But secondly, I actually think on a smaller level, this staff was excited. This is my last thing. They were excited because they believe in this team. Yeah. In this season, right now, 2024, the next 10 weeks, the next 6 months, depending on how optimistic you want to get about things, right? Like, they believe in this team. And I think a lot of us, myself included, right, had a little bit of a pause after the first 2 weeks, and particularly the Gardner-Webb game, right? And it's not that you're like, oh no, this isn't going to work in a big picture sense. But you're like, I don't know. And for them, the proof of concept is right there. And now all their goals that they don't want to talk about it. Chesley's not a guy who's going to go out and talk about the playoff or the Sun Belt Championship game. That's for me, right? That's for the fans to worry about that crap. He's not going to spend time worrying about things that are out of his control at this moment. But man, you win a game like that, all those coaches are so excited because all the goals are in front of them. And every player on this team is going to believe, if the coach says this is going to work next week, they're going to believe him now in a way that I don't know, like off the first 2 weeks, how everybody was, right? And so I'm really excited. They got me fully back in, right? Like all of us. Not that any of us were out. It's just the excitement for what's possible this season is back, And that's not to put unnecessary pressure on them and say we have to go 12-0 and make the playoff. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to win the Sun Belt right now, trying to win the East and make the championship game. And it all feels more possible after yesterday. So thank you, guys.
Thanks, Todd. Taylor, your final thoughts.
This is not an original thought of mine. Many other people have made it, but it's something I said a lot the last 24 hours and really the week leading up to this game. I think one of the most impressive things about Alonzo is that he is someone who, under two different coaching staffs, beat out a P5 transfer to win the starting job 2 years in a row. And I think there's some not criticism, but there was some stuff on Twitter the last couple of weeks where it was like, wonder how the Sound Off guys are going to spin this. Wonder, why are they such homers? And I think if you go back and listen to the last couple of episodes, I mean, I addressed and had concern and caution for the offensive play and the QB play. And I think everyone from Alonzo to Coach Chesney said, we need to see more. We need to see better. But I think being concerned or cautious with the play is different than the next step that a lot of people were taking to making assumptions of, the two games, the two 60-minute games that I've seen is enough to let me know who's there versus these two coaching staffs who, 24/7, 365 days a year for decades have been perfecting their craft to be where they are. And in a day and age where when a coach leaves the staff, the reason you see so many players leave is because it really doesn't matter how good I am. This coach is going to want their guys, and I'm not their guy. And I think how impressive it is for Alonzo to come in under two staffs, beat out two transfers that were brought in to be the guy. And that is all I needed to know, plus just the faith that I had in Coach Chesney based on what little time I've been around him and his resume to say, these guys are still riding this guy. These guys still continue to say, this is the guy. You just watch. I can't wait for you to see what he does. And that's why, in some ways, yes, putting 70 up against UNC in their house was shocking on that side. But seeing Alonzo have the success that he did yesterday, despite the first two games, when I say it wasn't shocking, I know that sounds like I'm, again, just being a homer, but it wasn't shocking because of the amount of confidence you continue to see these coaches have in him and the player he was. And as I mentioned with Alonzo, QB play is not just the quarterback position. It's the O-line and the protection they gave. It's the receivers and the routes that they were running. And he made the point about Kennedy being on the sideline, which is a point that we made pre-show, which I think is it's awesome he brought that up because it's just one more factor to say, we have a plan, we're ready to execute. And what you saw on Saturday, while astonishing, was not unexpected to that team and that coaching staff.
Awesome. Michael.
I know we've been playing up the program for like the last hour and a half, but I never thought that we would put 70 points, not just on an ACC team, on any team. And we played still a fairly sloppy game. I just want to remind everyone, I think we had 14 to 15 penalties for 160 yards. 5 or 6 of them were false starts. We had a block punt for a touchdown, and yet we had a 70 banger on UNC. So I think for a final thought, I'm really excited about us just once again putting things together, right? Whether it's taking care of the false starts and the communication, taking care of some of the blocking schemes. There was still, it seemed like, I don't know if anyone saw on the TV broadcast, sometimes a receiver would come in and they weren't sure where to line up. So there's some things that we still need to figure out, and it's week 3. And I love the fact that we have an opportunity to do that against Ball State, right? So going back from last week, I mentioned it too. There's a lot of noise around this program. If Coach Chesney thought that there was a lot of noise in week 1 versus Charlotte, there's going to be a lot of noise going to Ball State with all the publicity around us putting 70 points on UNC. So my thing is this. Keep it on, keep the main thing, shut it down, keep the focus, and let's have like a come out party on Saturday that we can all, and the families, because it is family weekend. It's going to be a little bit sleepy. It's probably not going to be as ruckus, as daunting as Gardner Webb, to be honest, coming out of the tunnel. But let's just keep the focus and like execute a flawless game on Saturday and give the people what they want. And that's an amazing atmosphere at Bridgeforth.
Steve.
Adaptability, consistency, and resilience. That's what this team is about. That's what Bob Chesney told us when he first was hired. That's what he's produced. And that's what he'll continue to produce. We're in week 3. I want to thank Coach Chesney. I want to thank the assistant coaches, the analysts, the staff, last but not least, the players. You easily could have packed it in and said, you know what? It's a paid game. We'll go out there and do what we got to do. We'll see what happens. And we'll go on to Ball State. We'll be 3-1. It's not what this team is about. They use their bye week to get better. They use their week to prepare. And you saw how they wrapped up probably the best running back in the country. I think the kid will win the Heisman. And we hit him, and we hit him, and we hit him. Now, the kid got some, but at the end of the day, the number of times he got hit and the number of times he got stopped, the tackling I thought was great. AB3 setting that record in game 3. This is his 3rd full game as a starter. Unfreaking believable talent. And this is going to be fun to watch this ride. And Chesney told him, and like he told them all, I'm going to give you a shot. Everybody gets a shot. You produce, you're going to play. Everybody has a shot to do it. And by God, they're doing it. Ball State, we're coming. I don't care about you. It's all about us. We're coming for you. I don't care about you walking the aisle this week. We're walking the aisle. And dogs eat birds. So get in your seat 45 minutes before kick. I want it to be loud during the warm-ups. So those guys from Ball State, when they see everything going on, they start looking at the Jumbotron like everybody does, and they get that feeling in their gut. That feeling in the gut is us punching you in the stomach over and over and over. And that's what's going to happen on Saturday. I can't wait to see what these guys do.
Awesome. My final thought is this. There's been some chatter, and I understand why, about don't jump on the bandwagon if you said something bad about the team in the last couple of weeks. Well, I have my own opinion on that. You can jump on the bandwagon. Just make a gift to the Duke Club of the Montpelier Collective to make up for it. And the reason I bring that up, and we're accused of a lot of things, but one of the things is we're constantly pushing the collective, and there's a reason for that. If we're going to continue to take the steps in the directions that we want to go, we have to increase the bandwagon. We have to bring in new people, and that means new donors. So whether it's $5, $500, $5,000, if we have a $5 million donor out there, Cliff Wood will take that call too. Please do whatever you can, even if it's not a financial gift. Follow the Montpelier Collective's Instagram, retweet a Duke Club post, tell a friend who you think can make an impact or a difference on this program, because that's how we sustain this. That's how we have more victories against ACC schools, because every single day now in the world of college athletics, a new article comes out that says, is the group of 5 relevant? Is the Pac 35 going to come together now with the Big Ten? Let's keep shocking the world. Let's keep showing them that this little school in Harrisonburg, that, hey, it's not that little anymore, can do big things despite what the national narrative is. And it comes with your support, whether it's you're in a seat or you have tickets and you can't get to a game and you give them to that neighbor down the street who hasn't been to a game in 15 years, but saw that JMU just put 70 on UNC. Because I'm telling you, there are a number. I saw it at the gym today. I saw it at the grocery store. I've talked in conversations with people in my neighborhood. There are still fans that, despite the success over the last couple of years, haven't fully gotten on board with this program yet. Not for many malicious reasons or anything. It's just life happens. They've got kids. They're not diehard sports fans, but there is an opportunity now when you have a win like this against a program that everybody knows to change the narrative. And you as an individual can make more of a difference than you realize. We saw it at the Duke Club event on Friday night. A number of new faces who said they hadn't been to a Duke Club game event before. That's going to happen a lot over the next couple of weeks. There's going to be a lot of people who buy tickets for the first time or go on SeatGeek or StubHub to get inside Bridgeforth, show them a good time at a tailgate. Make sure they feel welcomed. If you see somebody on the road, that type of thing has a ripple effect. It sends a message to recruits. It sends a message to this staff and everyone else who has a role in getting us to where we need to be. And there's been a lot of conversation about increasing and expanding the stadium or enhancing it in some direction in the future. You're going to play a role in what that looks like and how quickly we can do that. And it starts with a gift to the Duke Club, and it starts with a gift to the Montpelier Collective. And with that, we're going to end tonight's marathon broadcast. First of all, just thank you to Alonzo Barnett, the guys from Skyline Financial Partners. Thank you to our newest contributor, Mr. Mickey Matthews. Thank you to Kay for getting him on the computer and the phone. Special shout out to her. That was probably a Hall of Fame effort in her own regard. To our listeners, to Where's Woody, Talent Core, Your Purple Nation, Shoker Enterprises, to JMU Sports Blog. We're all a family here, and we're just grateful to everyone who joined us on this. We're here because of you, and we're excited to see what happens in the weeks to come. And with that, we'll see you next week for another episode of JMU Sound Off. Listen to Rob and Todd tomorrow night as they put out their show. I'm sure it's going to be good stuff. And with that, we'll talk to you next week. Go Dukes.